Housing evictions begin as the rental moratoriums end. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at this article, or in a few articles, discussing the beginning of the rental evictions. This was from Domain on the 1st of April. Landlords waste no time issuing notices to vacate after the eviction moratorium comes to an end. And this is written by Rachel Wells. So let's go through this, guys, because there's two sides to this story. There's going to be always portraying the poor tenant, and then, the evil, greedy landlord kicking out the poor, innocent tenant. Now, we all have agency, everyone. There you go. Just realize that every person has agency. Don't let a victim narrative and feeling sorry for someone in a tough situation, make you ignore that. But you also have to understand the landlords have had a real issue. They have been struggling, everyone. And we have to remember what caused all of this. This was the government stepping in and, putting moratorium in place, which they had to do because they also stepped in and stopped people working. That's why. Because they thought that by locking down parts of the economy, they could mitigate the impact of this illness on our health system. Or wasn't that the idea? Flatten the curve in 2 weeks? So this is all because of a mess the government created, everyone. That's the issue. And then people will use more emotive things to justify it because they're scared. That's what it is. So the evictions begin. Let's have a look at this first article. The Victorian tenancy support groups say landlords have wasted no time in trying to evict tenants from their homes, with some renters receiving notice to vacate only hours after the state's moratorium on evictions ended on Sunday. There are going to be some people here that need to get rent for their property, or they're going to lose it, everyone. That's what's going to happen. Maybe they've had a mortgage holiday. Maybe they're struggling as well. I remember in the past we've looked at article upon article about landlords who are doing it tough, because the problem is everyone wants to be a landlord in Australia. Everyone sees property as their only way to build wealth, and some people might stretch themselves too far. You've all heard about rent vesting. Remember the person who was complaining that they couldn't keep their property in the middle of nowhere. I mean, in some ways, being a landlord, you now have to be responsible for your tenants. You've got now paternalistic responsibility in case the state intervenes and demands that people don't pay rent. There's a precedent been set. There'll be calls for this again in the future. This is the problem. Whenever the government does something, more people are going to call for it again. You know it's going to happen, everyone. Noel Lim, CEO of Anka Legal, which offers a free online legal service for Victorian renters, said the organisation started receiving requests for its new eviction support service on Monday. The fact that we were contacted on day one, which was the first possible chance for landlords to provide a notice to vacate, suggests that we're going to see a whole lot more inquiries once there's been a bit more time for landlords to prepare their paperwork, Mr. Lim said. I mean, I think lawyers are... The worst instance I've ever had was receiving a legal, demand on Christmas Eve just before, so I couldn't respond for the holiday. That was horrible. That was really sticking the knife in from someone who wants to go, lawyers. You gotta, I don't know why we have them. I do know why, but still. I mean, that's a career as well that's getting hammered with so many graduates not finding work. Anyway, back to this. I'm not going to feel sorry for them right now. It is pretty clear that many landlords have been sitting and waiting for the ban to lift so they can evict tenants. The key rental protections, which also include a ban on rental increases, ended on March 28th, the same day that JobKeeper payments came to an end. This is the thing, everyone. These things have to come to an end. We can't keep them going forever. I know there's some people that dream of a world where the government provides all housing. That's been tried before. It never works. Kind of sucks living in those countries, everyone. There's a reason why people flee them. The protections were introduced in the early weeks of the pandemic to prevent tenants from being evicted for the non-payment of rent due to rising unemployment and reduced incomes. On Monday, new rental laws came into effect under the amended Residential Tenancies Regulation 2021, which has been designed to make renting in Victoria fairer and safer. And we'll go through some of those in the Government to the Rescue section of this video, but I'll link to it in the pinned comment or on the references. References on my blog if you want to go through those. There are a lot of regulations, guys. There are a lot. I mean, we'll just jump here now. How many are there? 100. Oh, wait. Nope. I'm jumping ahead too far. 132. That's it. 132 regulations, guys. Some tenancy groups say the reforms don't go far enough in protecting renters who are still feeling the financial impacts of the government lockdowns to the economy, of the Andrews government, severe and most strictest lockdowns in the world. You've got to remember that, everyone. I'm worried people are going to forget with the way the media, they're all blaming it on this illness, but it's the government interventions that have caused this, because that's the strategy they are arguing for to mitigate it, even though there are counter arguments to these strategies that aren't getting any light of day, that no one's talking about. So, Erin Tolstis-Noyce, the Secretary of the Renters and Housing Union, says, "We're happy to see some amendments have been made to the regulation because they've been a long time coming. But those amendments don't address the larger problem of rental debt that COVID-19 brought to many renters due to job losses, and now cuts to JobKeeper and JobSeeker, as well as temporary visa holders who didn't have access to any of those support payments anyway," she said. See, this is the thing, that they're critical of the outcome of government intervention. They're not critical of the government intervention. I guess they couldn't, you know. Their friends might look at them funny. The organisation called on the state government to have rental debt incurred due to the impact of the pandemic waived for Victorian renters. So if you've had a property, you've invested it, you've maintained it, and someone hasn't paid, you're not going to get it paid. Or this is what they're calling for. They want it wiped clean, everyone. Well, there's one way to get rid of your rental debt, I am imagining, declare personal bankruptcy. You don't want to do that, do you? So we're not out of the pandemic yet. The economy hasn't come back yet. Many renters haven't come back to full-time work or a stable income. So the idea they could be put on a payment plan to pay back, in some instances, 12 months' worth of arrears or be kicked out of their home because of that is something we're very concerned about, she said. Maybe if you're in such a mess, you need to find somewhere else, guys, to live. And that's the problem, because it's a nightmare. Oh, then again, no, not in Victoria, where this article is from. In Melbourne, we saw in another episode, rents are going down. You can get a 2-bedroom place in the city for under $400. There are a lot of them there. Get 2 couples in there, you're each paying $90. I mean, smart landlords would come to the table to work a deal out, but these advocacy groups just want it wiped away. So, Michael Ferner, who lost his 5-year job as a research officer at an Australian university in December, is among thousands of Victorian renters still feeling the financial impact of the pandemic. At the end of last year, I was told by the university that they couldn't renew my contract because the university sector has obviously been hit hard by the pandemic, he said. This is the problem with the university sector, guys. And some of these jobs, these research jobs that they have in there, it's just year on year, guys. It's year on year. It's not very good employment, really. It's kind of sad when you think of all the energy that they put in to become an academic. And so I'm currently unemployed and looking for work. And while I know I can get by for a couple of months by doing some odd jobs, I know that I'm effectively relying on the goodwill of my landlord and property manager, he says. Mr. Ferner said he was uncertain about what the future holds for thousands of renters like himself. I'm okay right now, but there are thousands and thousands of people like me that won't necessarily be so lucky, and who knows how long it might take for me to find a new job, he said. But that's not your landlord's problem. This is the thing, guys. Maybe you go, okay, I've got a break lease, extenuating circumstances, find somewhere cheaper. I know it sucks, guys. I know it sucks. I know moving is a real pain. It's part of life. Sounds like this guy doesn't have a family. Shouldn't be much of an issue. Greens leader, of course, Samantha Ratnam, agreed the new rental regulations, which were devised before COVID hit, will not be enough to keep Victorians affected by the lockdowns in their homes. Okay, so let's have a look at the latest weekly rental costs, at least from SQM, guys, while I have a shot of coffee. Because this is the problem, everyone. You're going to have people advocating for things like wiping all debt away. We need to look at all this mess, all these people that are suffering, you know, the anxiety of being in a home, unable to afford, unable to work, is the cost that we're paying for the government's lockdowns. That is the real issue, guys, that needs to be addressed and discussed, but no one's ever talking about it anymore. It's a huge uncertainty now in every state, every part of the economy. Here in Queensland, we could be locked down at any moment. Oh. And I've done a video, disease mitigation. Have a look at it on this channel, which was critical, and these are epidemiologists who are world-renowned, winner of the President Medal, critical of these interventions back when we had all the other illnesses going around the world, guys. Anyway, that doesn't matter. These days, it's just now de facto expected, particularly with Labor state premiers. So let's have a look at the rents for week ending 4th of April. In Brisbane, all houses $486, 3-bed $456, all units $384, and 2-bed are $382. We've got change on the previous week. This is what they're going up to. Rolling monthly change, where do we want to go? Let's look 10-year change, 1.5%. So about inflation, kind of. Sydney, all houses $656, all units $452. 10 years, you know, barely up. 3 years are down, 12 months are down. You know, Melbourne, 511, 515 for a 3-bedder. Units, $366. Look how much cheaper the units are, about $100 cheaper in Melbourne than they are in Sydney. Rents are going, look at that, this 3-year change going down. 12 months change, all units down 12.7%. Rents are going down, everyone. There are opportunities out there. You'd be insane not to take advantage of this. They're going to be landlords who are desperate. We're seeing landlords are desperate, evicting people to try and get anyone in there. That's a sign of desperation, guys. Canberra, $658 for a house. Well, those politicians need to claim all their government spending. Units, $493. Look at that. Units are cheaper. Housing and units are cheaper to rent in Melbourne than Canberra. Darwin, look at Darwin. 3-bedder house, $550 pretty much. Units, more expensive than Melbourne as well. Everything in the green in Canberra. Only 7 years it's down, but pretty much green in Darwin. Good old Adelaide, $436 for all houses, $329 for a unit, $320 for a 2-bedder. 2-bedder, you get 2 couples in there, $60. Well, no, not $60 each. What's that? $150, $160. Still pretty cheap if you've got 4 people in a 2-bedroom unit, which is what you do when you're young. Okay, that's what you're meant to do. Or am I out of date, guys? Do people not do that anymore? Do they all want everything by themselves? Which I can completely understand, not wanting to share. It sucks. Hobart, what do we look for? Look at Hobart, $420 for all units, $484. Everything in the green. Tasmania is not cheap anymore. Perth, $515 pretty much for all houses, $386 for units, and it's all in the green as well. 12 months. Look at the 12 months change, everyone. 10%, 12%. So that's the latest weekly rents. And I didn't update my key. I'll do that later. Don't worry. So landlord struggles, everyone. Now this is the other side of it. This is an article from the Herald Sun that I want to go through about a Victorian retiree fighting to repossess their Ballarat home from a tenant. And we looked at this previously. A tenant from Hull who barricaded herself in her rental home in Victoria's Central Highlands and refused to leave has been given her marching orders. I mean, there's lots of people that just share nightmares with regards to tenants, okay? This is the other side of the story when people are talking about property, getting into property. You got to deal with this. And someone was asking me, they were saying, should I buy a industrial unit or something down at Yatla Way, which is the industrial area down the way to the Gold Coast there. And I'm wondering, why would you go all in or put a big chunk of money in one property? If you're doing it for your business, that makes sense. I've got mates that have done that, bought a warehouse that their business is paying through their super. That kind of makes sense, but even then, that's still going all in one location, which could work out real well. I actually had a previous landlord who owned an industrial design business, and he just keeps moving from one premises to another, does it up and then sells it, does it up and then sells it. And I think that's where he makes a lot of his money from the property, more than the business. But, this is the thing. Why would you go into a property here having to deal with tenant nightmares when you go into a real estate investment trust or other things where you don't have to deal with that? I guess it comes down to your risk profile and the amount of stress you want in your life. The older I'm getting, the less stress I want. I put a lot of value on just not giving a damn and having no stress. But let's have a look at this. Julie Shepherd was this month ordered to vacate her rental home on a 2-hectare property near Ballarat so the landlord could clean it for sale. The VCAT heard on March 3rd. Miss Shepherd had let the country block fall into disrepair during her lease. She blocked tradies hired by the vendor to clean up the mess from entering the property, and dodged calls and texts by real estate agents who she claimed had hired contract killers to take her out on Christmas Eve. So, well, that's a sign of mental illness, I'd say. Photographs produced of the home showed overflowing boxes lining the hallway, the bedroom, living area, and garage, clothes on the floor in many rooms, benches cluttered with items, and an unclean kitchen. Outside, shrubs, weeds, and grass had been allowed to grow wild, while fallen trees and a disused collapsed pergola was left where they fell, creating a fire hazard. Ms. Campana said furniture, rubbish, and twigs had also been stacked against the home, which had smashed windows and a broken door. Tradies who attempted to visit the property to undertake repairs were asked to leave, or could not get access because she'd parked cars and left bins in the driveway. She blamed the agents for a failed attempt on her life by contract killers the night before Christmas, for stealing personal documents during a home invasion, and also claimed that the agents had hacked her phone. So this is the thing. You may be running to crazy, guys. She and Mr. Shepherd have told the tribunal she was waiting for an inheritance and wanted to buy the block, but needed 2 years to sort out her finances. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen. She also submitted she hadn't bothered to make arrangements to find an alternative place to live because she didn't think she'd really have to move out. See, this is showing you a sign with when they trot out these people and then they discuss the homelessness, they get you emotional. There are some people who have mental health issues that are not being treated, and that's a whole other issue that we need to look at. So she granted the landlord's request to end the tenancy agreement to obtain a possession order. The tribunal heard the owner and all the couple plan to clean up the property and sell so they can retire. She must vacate the property by the 15th of April. So that is the other side of this story as well. We're going to be plastered with all of these arguments about the poor victim getting kicked out. But landlords don't have it easy as well, guys. There are a whole lot of issues there. Now, how is the government coming to the rescue? There are a few ways that they are. And the first one I want to talk about is, private rental affordability. Now, I just want to highlight this. This chart graphically shows private rental affordability across Australia's major cities, excluding Canberra and Darwin. The Lorenz curve graphs the proportion of rental properties available for different incomes levels. Affordability is deemed to be a rental property equating to 30% or less of the household disposable income. So 30% or less of your disposable income. And we can see here Greater Perth, and this is from the 30th of the 6th. This is the latest data I could get. Greater Perth is affordable. So up to here, pretty much for everything, every income level. For Greater Adelaide, it's from 80%, to, what do we got, about 45, 50%, we could say. You've got access to those properties. The lower you get in your income, the less properties that are affordable. In Greater Hobart, only people in this range or this range up, so from 70% up, are above the curve. And Greater Melbourne, it's from 40% up are above the curve, so have affordable. And that's probably gotten better now with rental reductions. But if we have a look at Brisbane here is 60%, and we've looked at all of them, the red one, haven't we? So just keep this in mind. This is the situation that people are experiencing with rental affordability. Now, I haven't seen them yet here in Australia, but there may be calls for rent controls. And this is the government intervening in the market to set a maximum rent. And we've all, it exists in New York, it exists in certain parts of the world, and these create a big problem. Now, my argument is that the government intervening in the property market is facilitating a bubble that we're seeing here. It's having long-term impacts for our nation. It's driving investment away from other sectors into property because you'd be stupid not to. And that's creating a bubble and inflating the cost thanks to things like the candle-on effect and other issues. But I thought we'd just go through this topic of rent control because, well, I kind of want to start talking about it now before the media starts talking about it. Just wait. I'm sure there will be some. I'll have a shot of coffee. So this is a supply-demand curve, everyone. Okay? This is in this curve, it shows you I'm going to change to we'll go to a pen here. Let's go. We'll go orange color. This here is the price of rental, and this is the quantity of properties available. This is your demand, and this is your supply. So you'll reach an equilibrium point where the prices on the market price, and the quantity provided is the same. So there's no shortage and there's no oversupply. The prices level out. That is a free market with no interventions. I know you may not have seen one of those before because we really don't encounter them very much at the moment, but that's what you want. You want the market to provide a solution. But you've got reductions in the availability of land, you've got onerous government rules on provision of property, so this market gets distorted. Rent control is just another aspect of that. Now this is where, so you said, okay, the maximum rental price is this much. In Melbourne you can only charge, I don't know, 200, let's have a look. Where's Melbourne? So you can only charge $250 for a 2-bedroom unit. So just imagine what would happen there if the government came in and said $250 is the maximum rental price. All hail the Greens city councillor. Okay, and I know I'm making fun of them, but come on, guys, they'd be the ones pushing for that rubbish. What would happen then to the demand for rented housing? It would just skyrocket. You'd have people that are house sharing or people that are living at home that are thinking, for $250, I'll get my own place. Fantastic. Yeah. So the demand would skyrocket. Now, how many people do you think, if they've got rental property, and they're thinking, $250, that's all I can rent it for, that's not going to cover my mortgage, then I've got body corporates, and I've got to upgrade the lifts in a year, I'm going to be stung for that money, screw this, I'm getting out. I'm selling. So, it creates an excess in demand, everyone. So, it creates an excess in demand. And rental landlords get a reduced rental income after the rent cap. Okay, and what will happen is it'll cause a fall in rental supply. So the supply curve will move back as people exit the market. They sell and they get out. Or the other thing, and this is what's going to happen, is people will work around the system and you'll get a black market which will disadvantage people. This is the problem, everyone, of government intervention, the unintended consequences. It'll sound good in the soundbite, and that will win people votes. That's the problem. But it'll create all this mess. What do you think? Okay, so this is why we don't want the government intervening in rental prices. You don't want them stepping in. Just wait. We'll start to see calls for it. We'll start to see it soon. So let's have a look at how the Victorian government is stepping in at the moment, these rental law rules that have passed. And some of them, I think, I'll link to the whole thing if you want to go through it. 132, as I said, new regulations. Some of them make a lot of sense. Some of them are what I would have assumed is just common knowledge. But I'm starting to realize some of well, I'm an architect, guys. I went through university. The training they give us is very litigious and sometimes probably a little too litigious, which can work against you if you're arguing with someone over a particular contract clause going, I can't sign this document because my insurance won't cover that and that means you won't be protected. when some other idiot will just sign it, you could lose a big job. So that's sometimes having too much knowledge works against you as opposed to people who don't, but different topic. So the new rental laws came into effect on the 29th of March. The laws changes expand the rights and responsibilities of renters and rental providers. So you're not called landlords anymore in Victoria. You are now no longer a landlord. I don't know why they did it. You're a rental provider. Do you think that could be some SJW PC garbage why they changed it? Oh, I hope not, but it is Victoria, guys. So you're not a lord anymore, a lord of the land. You're a rental provider. Okay. The changes span the life cycle of a rental agreement, and before you sign a rental agreement until after the agreement ends. You can learn more about all of them in the summarized below, and I'll link to that, but I've gone through a few of them about starting a tenancy. So this is what I think is really good, and I probably assumed it would have been common knowledge. So before contractual disclosure, before entering into a rental agreement, the rental provider, aka landlord, must disclose to the renter whether the property is on the market for sale or is being repossessed, or if they are not the owner of your property, and any information about an embedded energy network. Now that's really an interesting bloody thing. I wouldn't call it a con, but it just frustrates me. You've got developers who will be building an apartment building, and then they will pretty much sell or give away the rights to an embedded energy network who will build the electricity infrastructure and the data infrastructure in the building, because then they have the rights to on-sell access to electricity and data to all the tenants in there. And if you don't go with it, you can't use their network. So they're selling a micro monopoly on the provision of data and power. It's crazy, you know. And I mean, the developers love it because then they don't have to pay for all of that infrastructure, and then the embedded energy network gets to pay for that infrastructure. I mean, it's the market, guys, but you need to make people aware of that. If they're buying or renting in a building, they now have to deal with this organization. So, unsigned rental agreements are enforceable. If a renter has signed the rental agreement, but the rental provider, landlord, has not, and the landlord or their agent has accepted rent or allowed part performance of the agreement by the renter, then the agreement is enforceable. Now that's I always thought that was common knowledge. If you enter into a contract and people pay you for it but don't actually sign the paperwork, that's an acknowledgement that they agree to your contract, your terms and conditions. Sure, you may have to go into a court of law to fight that, but that was what my understanding of that is. We'll often get that in our profession where people refuse to sign things. You need to have enough FU money where you can just tell people, nope, you're not going to start work till you sign the paper. And it's a big warning sign when people refuse to sign it as well. That should be a big red flag to not engage them as a client. They're telling you how rent is to be paid. And this is an interesting one too, because I remember back in the day when you know they'd get you to use their stupid app or all these other things, all these charges to make it easy, and I go, yeah, nah, we're not doing that. So any method of paying rent can be specified under a rental agreement, but the rental provider landlord must offer at least one reasonably available fee-free method to pay rent. Okay, that should just be part of the deal, everyone. Now, it should just be an ABN, should just be a BSB or a Pay ID. Come on. Rental providers must also disclose any costs that they may be incurred by the nominated method prior to the rental entering the agreement. I would say that the landlord, frankly, should absorb the costs of paying these stupid fees. It should be considered part of the rent. You know, I don't know what center pay is. So yeah, I mean, come on. That's just real estate agents trying to skim a little bit more on the top. You know, and people trust real estate agents more than other professions for some reason. So living in a rental property. So pets in rental properties. Renters can keep pets at a rental property with the written consent of the rental provider, the landlord. A landlord can apply to VCAT for an order that is reasonable to refuse permission. So you can get a pet, but you can be refused permission for a pet. And some people love their pets, but you know, they cause damage and you get cat hair and crazy stuff all around the place. So I can understand not wanting pets in your property. And here's an interesting one: a new process for repeated late or non-payment of rent. So, and this is very generous, frankly. When a renter pays back overdue rent within 14 days, any notice to vacate issued by the rental provider for that overdue rent is invalidated. This applies for the first 4 times it happens in a 12-month period. So you can pay rent late 4 times in a 12-month period, everyone. Hopefully you're not depending on this money coming in every day to keep you going. However, if the renter fails to pay rent as required on a 5th occasion in the same 12-month period, the rental provider may give notice to vacate and apply to VCAT for a possession order. VCAT may adjourn the possession application and place renters on a payment plan to meet the outstanding arrears. There you go, guys. They get 5 chances. I mean, there you go. So, some solutions, everyone. Some solutions. Now, here's the thing. We need to look at the supply of property. We need to advocate for local governments to increase the supply of homes to get out of the way with the onerous costs and burdens that they place on people and developers. I remember I was looking for a property. I think it was out Ipswich Way. And it was a big block with, they advertised it as get 3 blocks for the price of 1. And I thought, oh, fantastic. You can buy this big block and have 2 other little blocks. Why are they selling it so cheap? Well, because the owner had to pay $40,000 in headworks charges just to create these other blocks. Because putting these 2 other houses there would certainly create $40,000 worth of additional, that piping work that you're paying for, or that little curb that you're doing, or the extra use on the park, even though the owners of these properties would be paying rates and costs. So you got to understand. Government and state government put a big issue on just the supply and access to property. We had a look at the Nimbin crowd, not in my backyard crowd, the greenies and the hipsters. And the example that is annoying me at the moment is here in the Gabba ward, where you've got people trying to limit a development out at Ipswich, where the houses there would be, probably going for 400,000 to 500,000. Good, cheap starter homes. And you could commute from there to the city, okay? It wouldn't be friendly. You'd be a bit bloody annoyed, but you'd find a way to make it work if you want to get in the market and have your own house. And the people in this suburb who are represented by that councillor, their houses are worth over $1 million. So that's the problem. The not in my backyard crowd. This is why when people are calling for Australia needs to develop manufacturing and industry, that's going to be a big issue, everyone. And you got to don't vote or support political parties that limit development and construction. And you'll have people go to investor courses where they say, okay, you may not like this party, but vote for them because they'll, near your investment properties because they'll limit supply. So guys, that is today's episode discussing just, evictions begin. It's not as simple and black and white as the media will portray. There's 2 sides to this story, and what seems to have been forgotten is the burden the state is putting on all of us. Just remember, if we start seeing calls for rent control, it's not going to work. It will not work. It's going to cause more problems. It's the problem of intervening in the market. Thank you all what's going on there? Sorry. Thank you all very much for watching this episode. Please like, I buggered these up today. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can support us by buying our merch or using Gold Pass from the Perth Mint. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.